What's going on, everybody? This is Keith Burroughs from the What's Your Grind podcast. Man, oh man, do we have a treat for you today. I have Char on from Diva2Diva, her podcast. We're going to get into everything. So episode 7 starts now.
iGrindNation podcast. What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What you grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What you grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What you grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What you grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What you grind like? What's your grind like? What's your grind like? What you grind like?
Man, welcome back, everybody, to the What's Your Grind podcast. My name is Keith Burroughs. I am your host. I have Char with me from Diva2Diva Talks, the podcast, the movement, and I want to get right into it. So please introduce yourself to the audience.
My name is Char, and I am the host of Diva2Diva Talks.
And tell us more about the concept of your podcast and why you created this podcast.
Why? Why? Because it's needed. So I'm in, as I call seasoned. I do not use the word old, but I'm in the season years. And I feel like we're the generation that's in between. The younger generation, they came up with everything online, with this, with that. My parents, your parents didn't have all that. We were the generation where we just got started into the internet. We got started into online dating. We got started into all these things. And I feel like we're lost in it. We don't get to talk about a lot of things because some of us are afraid to do the online thing.
Yeah.
Some of us are, yes, I'm all in. So I think we're in the middle. And a lot of things that even it's called Diva2Diva Talks, which is geared towards women, but there will be men that will be hosted on the show. And also, I want men to tune in because they need to know what women are talking about so they know how to interact.
We can learn
them.
a lot.
Absolutely.
It's, I have the pleasure of being your producer for the show. And first of all, I mean, you don't need a script. You are raw, uncut, 100% Char, and I totally enjoy watching you on camera because, you kind of set the pace for what we're trying to do here.
Thank you. This is new. Most people that know me know I'm a talker, and I always have things to say, but it's different podcasting, and it's different when you're sitting somewhere talking to other people that you don't know as opposed to talking to friends and family. So it's definitely different, but I am up for the challenge.
So let's dive into Diva2Diva. First, what's the demographic? What's the age range that we're looking at for your audience that you're going after?
We are typically appealing to ages 40 and up. Okay. But also, I have nieces that are in their 30s, and the things that I'm talking about are things they're going to experience within the next 5 years or 10 years. So we're geared towards 40, but we want this younger generation to pay attention to say, uh-oh, this is coming, or this may be happening.
This is next.
And I can be aware.
Yeah.
Right.
See, and what I like is, your demographic might be 35 and up, but the topics are so raw and so real that anybody can turn your podcast on and laugh and relate. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was in the background cracking up, and we all in the background it was exhilarating. And so tell me about some of the challenges that you faced so far in putting this program, this podcast together. And also, let's talk about the future topics of the podcast.
Well, first of all, I was a DIY.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm going to do this at home. I got the camera, not the cameras that are in here, but I have the camera, the mic, and all those things. And it seemed like, okay, not to say that people that are wanting to start a podcast can't do that, because many do, but there is a difference. And I'm like, wow, I have an opportunity to do this more professionally, and I'm going with it.
Absolutely.
You know, so that was first, because I'm studying online, I'm watching other people's podcasts, I'm reading about the different things they do, how they do them, why they do them. So I was doing all that before I even really came to you guys.
Sure.
Or, you know, decided let's go further.
Yeah.
And I have put this project down probably 2 or 3 times. So I feel now it's time to stop putting it down and to move into one of my purposes.
Tell them again. Right.
Which leads me into some of the topics. The first episode, which will air shortly, we talked about dating, what dating meant to some people, what it didn't mean, what some people's definition was, you know, all of the different aspects of it. And we'll kind of build on that. We'll talk about getting into an actual relationship with somebody. Do you want to get married again at this season year? We're going to talk about, as I said, purpose. Are you living in your purpose? Are there things that you should be doing that you aren't doing? Why? Is it fear? Whatever that case may be. We're going to talk about retirement. These are the season years. Not everybody prepared for retirement the way they should, but never too late. We'll talk about savings. We're going to talk about maybe buying a home. Some people feel that at this season age, you shouldn't buy a home. Some people feel like, yes, because I want it to be my forever home.
Sure.
So it's all these different things. We'll talk about some things that men, you know, deal with that affect us. We're going to talk about menopause. That's a huge topic now that, let me tell you, I was wishing for it because there's some other things I didn't want to deal with prior. But if I know what I know now, I probably would have said, hold off for a little while.
Keep it coming.
And so it'll just be different things that we're experiencing, you know, every day. It's every day. It's about the everyday woman, the things that our mantra is. We are going to talk about the things that we're not supposed to talk about. Back in the day, you remember what happens in this house?
That's right.
Stays in this house.
Right.
But we want to get rid of that myth. We want to talk about it. Why? Because it helps the next woman. It helps the next man know about the woman that he's dealing with. I don't know how many times I say men do not know. We want them to know so much. They don't know. So I feel if you're listening to somebody that know, it might help you somewhere down the line. So we'll have a multitude of, oh my goodness. We'll have a multitude of different people on the show.
Sure.
We're going to bring men on. I have 2 or 3 men lined up because it's Diva2Diva Talks, but we got something for you guys too. We got to keep you engaged for your women.
So I have a good question for you. How do you prepare for this? How are you? Is this going to be something that's like scripted, outlined, freestyled? What's your process of preparing for your podcast show?
Most things are not scripted.
Right.
I tend to jot down thoughts, and I'm also going through a lot of experience.
Yeah.
It's things that I've dealt with, talk to other women, things they've dealt with. So just basically real life. I'll kind of outline like these are the things I want to talk about. So I hit those points, but more or less it's just freestyle. It's whatever I'm thinking, it's whatever I'm feeling, whatever I've been through, and what other women have been through.
Wow. That's amazing. So, okay, you've hit the topic about relationships. Let's talk about, more serious topics that you're going to be covering, like the menopause. It's you know what? I can't articulate it. I'm going to let you go ahead and articulate it. Like, the struggles of being in a position, going through something, and also opening up to others about such a huge topic.
It's a very big topic, and it's not talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go into some of those details that I can't wait for the show, but there are some things, for example, brain fog. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're doing any of these things, you have these jobs where you on it, And prior to menopause, you were like this. You had it. You had everything
He's on
down.
point, yeah.
You didn't need it. And then menopause says to you like, ooh, I had a meeting yesterday and I forgot. Or, oh, I was supposed to do this and I didn't do that. Or I'm not doing it to the magnitude that I used to do it. You don't feel like it, you know?
Yeah.
All those things. Your sleep. Let's talk about sleep. Sleep is a big one. When you're going through menopause, you will lose sleep. There are some people, that get a couple hours of sleep a night. Not because I don't try.
Right.
My body is just not cooperating. You know, I was in the bed by 11, up by 6 person for years. And then all of a sudden, I'm up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And now I want to sleep in the mornings. Forget getting up at 7 o'clock. So it's just so many avenues that weren't talked about. And if our parents had talked about these things, I would probably be a little bit more prepared.
Sure.
And I'm not. And I don't like it.
What advice would you give people that are watching that are saying, wow, Char got it all together, and I'm trying to get out of my own way and start being an entrepreneur?
Char doesn't have it all together. There are days when I'm like, I just don't feel like this. And again, menopause. You know, back in the day, I felt like everything. I got up out the bed, my feet hit the floor, and I was off and running. And it's just not that way. But I always kind of revert back to, how bad do I want it? You know, the days when I don't feel like it, how bad do I want it? I drag myself into the next room in my workroom and I'm saying, I would rather have a cup of coffee, sit down, and maybe watch a movie or something, and then I go back to how bad do I want it. So again, that's the struggle. There's a mental struggle there where my mind is saying, girl, just relax, chill. My body and my mind sometimes are saying, no, get up, because there's things you want to accomplish. So if you're in those season years and this is happening to you, I would say take a few minute break, regroup, then go back to it. And if you have to stop midway through, stop.
Absolutely.
And then go back to it.
So I've known you for a while now. And my next question is pertaining to some of the many talents that you have that I know about already behind the scenes.
Right.
A lot of work that people get done behind the scenes is done by Char. And let's talk about some of those things. Like, I want to talk about the t-shirt company and the Diva Designs, a Diva by Design. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about that. That's a business that I think the people need to know that you're involved in. So tell us about that company and what do you do exactly?
So I'm going to start with a Design by Diva fashion house. And when I was, my goodness, probably about, I've always liked fashion, but when I was probably about 17 years old or so, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. In my mind, I was going to design, or I was going to work for the federal government, and I was going to design something for the military where bullets would bounce off of their clothes. Like, that was my mindset at 17.
Okay.
This is what I'm going to do. But life, to understand, I had 2 children, I got married, I did all those things, and I was like, well, all right, that's not the path that I'm taking. Yeah. This is where I'm at now. But things come full circle, and that's when I tell people about purpose. Just out of nowhere, I just thought I should start getting back into fashion. My kids were of teenage years, mm-hmm. and I had time, and I just got into it, and it came back as if I had never left it.
Wow.
It's like always there. And as I've gotten to be a plus size girl, I noticed that the market for the plus size women is not what it should be. We're very undeserved. They don't put stuff out there for
pickings.
Us. And if they do, they want us to give the right arm and the left arm and maybe a foot or something to pay for it. So in my mind, I was always like, listen, I'm that girl. I can appeal to the women that don't want to spend a lot of money for clothes, but want to look nice.
Sure.
And that's where I'm headed. So a Design by Diva fashion house is working on some designs that is for the average everyday woman. And you just want to look cute when you're out here. You don't want no flowers and all that stuff on your clothes, because when you walk in some of these plus size sections, that's all you see is flowers and nonsense on the clothes. So in doing that, I started doing t-shirts because I had things to say. And that's what I put on my shirt. Things to say. So I actually have on one of my shirts now. Let's see if you can see that, right? It says...
wait, real quick. That was the next thing that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the bling apparel and how all these things are married. Like this is you're not one level. You're not one dimensional. There's levels to even the learning curves that we go through behind the scenes is ridiculous. So yeah, tell everybody about the shirt that you're wearing today, and you could get stuff blinged through her. So I just want to talk to y'all about that.
Now this should be at least one person. You black, at least one person. You bougie, and if you're not bougie, your friends probably have called you bougie, right? You booked. If you have a business, you booked and you working, and everybody should be blessed.
Absolutely.
Right?
Amen.
So I wear this shirt so that I can feel all of these things at one time. But bling is my thing. When I first started with shirts, and I'm gonna tell you my shirt story.
Okay.
There was a friend of mine that would have parties, and every party had a theme and a color. So when it was time to go, I couldn't find a shirt that I liked that matched the theme and the color. And I decided to make a shirt.
Okay.
And I blinged out the shirt because I love bling. And I got there and everybody's like, oh my God, where'd you get that shirt? I want one. And I made it for them. And it was just my logo. I made it for them. And then I said, well, if I'm giving them away, I can certainly sell them.
Certainly.
And then it started there, and some of my friends have helped me along the way, and they're like, listen, this is where you can get this equipment. This is what you need. I have a girlfriend that was very integral part of that. She took me to a trade show. And at that trade show, I bought the equipment that I needed to start doing these on a bigger scale.